Oscar Piastri was left stunned after reviewing McLaren's sprint data in Brazil, data that confirmed what many feared: the car is evolving away from him and toward Norris. This isn't just about tenths or telemetry anymore. It's about identity. Piastri is being asked to abandon the driving style that made him a title contender and drive like someone else. Even worse? A 19-year-old rookie in a Mercedes just out-qualified him. And while the car isn't broken, the harmony between man and machine clearly is. But who's really responsible? We're breaking down the full story, the data, the frustrations, and the words from Piastri himself. Because what happened in Brazil wasn't just a gap to Norris. It was a warning shot. Oscar Piastri came into Brazil with quiet confidence. A championship contender, a proven qualifier, and one of the most naturally gifted drivers McLaren has had in years. But after sprint qualifying, that confidence collided with something far more difficult to control: the data. What the engineers showed him wasn't shocking in isolation, but in context. It cut deep. The numbers didn't lie. His car had fundamentally changed. And that change wasn't favoring him. On paper, P3 in the sprint shootout looks respectable. But data never tells the full story unless you know where to look. When Piastri reviewed the corner traces, the braking zones, the throttle maps, one truth became impossible to ignore: Norris's McLaren was rotating more cleanly, carrying more speed, and crucially more stable in high-load corners. Not because Piastri wasn't trying, but because the updated MCL39 was behaving in a way that punished his precision and rewarded Norris's aggression. For any elite driver, that realization hurts. But for someone like Oscar, who has built his F1 craft on technical discipline, consistency, and surgical accuracy, it's more than frustrating, it's destabilizing. He's not just trying to beat his teammate. He's trying to beat a car that no longer wants to be driven his way. Imagine holding a scalpel your whole life and suddenly being asked to swing a hammer. That's what Brazil felt like. And the kicker? A 19-year-old rookie in a Mercedes outqualified him. Andrea Antonelli, in just his second sprint weekend, slotted between the two McLarens. A generational talent, no doubt, but for Oscar, it underlined how small the margins have become. 1/10 slower, one slip in balance, and suddenly you're not just chasing Norris. You're defending your own position in the hierarchy of the future. But what truly set this weekend apart were Piastri's words. He didn't hold back. In private debriefs, frustration boiled over. Not in anger, but in clarity. "The car is moving in a direction that doesn't match me," he reportedly said. It wasn't a complaint. It was a diagnosis. A champion's honesty. Because what Oscar Piastri wants, what every elite driver needs, is a machine that lets them drive by instinct. And right now, his instincts are being asked to shut off. This sprint qualifying wasn't just a one-off result. It was a fault line. A sign that the relationship between Piastri and his machinery is entering a complex phase. One where adaptation is essential. One where the mental game becomes just as important as the mechanical one. And as we break down the numbers, the setups, and the team reaction, one question will echo louder than the rest: how far can Oscar Piastri bend before something breaks? The core of Oscar Piastri's frustration in Brazil isn't emotional, it's mechanical. Since McLaren introduced its aggressive mid-season upgrade package, the MCL39 has shifted its center of performance. The changes brought more front-end grip, a narrower working window for tire temperatures, and a more reactive rear under deceleration. For most drivers, that kind of balance demands bold rotation, late braking, and constant steering correction. It rewards instinctive car control. It punishes finesse. Lando Norris has thrived in this new dynamic. His natural tendency to provoke the car into the corner, to carry yaw angle into apex, and to overheat the tires early in the lap suddenly, that's not a flaw. It's a feature. The car now bends toward that style. But Piastri? He built his season, and his title lead, on the opposite. His approach is smoother, more controlled. A system based on entry stability and mid-corner traction. And now, that system is under attack. At Interlagos, the difference became impossible to ignore. In the medium speed section between turns 6 and 11, Piastri consistently lost time to Norris, sometimes by as much as 0.2 in a single lap. Not because he was making errors, but because the car wouldn't allow him to rotate the way he used to. The rear end stepped out sooner. The entry phase demanded sharper inputs. The precision he was known for? It became a limitation. Inside McLaren's garage, the data told a story that aligned with what Oscar felt. Brake trace overlays showed earlier pedal release from Norris, generating more rotation but with higher risk. Piastri's telemetry revealed more linear inputs, cleaner, but slower through rotation. Same car, different behavior. And the team couldn't change that overnight without undoing the gains they'd made across the last 4 race weekends. What makes this even harder is that Oscar isn't fighting the setup. He's trying to meet it. He isn't asking for favors. He's asking for understanding. He's adjusting his style to match a car that now moves underneath him with a different rhythm. That kind of mental shift doesn't happen in hours. It takes laps. And in sprint weekends, with limited practice, the margin to rewire instinct is brutally small. But here's the truth. Very few drivers on the grid could even identify this shift, let alone articulate it in feedback. Piastri isn't just trying to go fast, he's trying to evolve without breaking what made him special. That takes technical maturity. That takes patience. And that takes belief. Because at this level, adapting isn't just about survival. It's about staying in the title fight even when the car no longer drives like yours. For Oscar Piastri, this is no longer about race results. This is about identity. The calm, calculating driver who outpaced Norris through the heart of the season is now having to question the very techniques that made him so quick. That's not just frustrating, it's destabilizing. When the tools no longer match your hands, the confidence starts to chip away. You begin to hesitate. You start second-guessing what used to be instinct. This is the silent battle F1 fans rarely see. Not between cars. Not even between drivers. But within the driver himself. Oscar Piastri isn't fighting Lando Norris anymore. He's fighting the erosion of his own rhythm, his own understanding of how to be fast. That's what the McLaren data revealed. A clear, clinical confirmation that the car now rewards a style that is not his own. And that's a hard truth to accept for any athlete, especially in the middle of a title push. The cost of this moment goes beyond tenths. It spills into the race strategy room, into the media narrative, into the team dynamic. When Norris consistently qualifies ahead, even by margins of hundredths, McLaren's momentum starts shifting in one direction. Sponsors, engineers, setup priorities, they all follow performance. And Piastri knows that if he doesn't reverse this soon, the team will stop seeing two equal contenders and start seeing a number one. But this is exactly where elite drivers show who they really are. Not when things are easy, when things are fair, but when the scales tip against them and they still refuse to fold. That's the zone Piastri has entered now. He knows he's no longer favored by the car. He knows Norris is surging. But what he also knows, what makes him special, is that evolution is possible. Even under pressure. Even with the spotlight burning at its brightest. Mentally, these next 4 races are a trial by fire. Piastri will have to hold his nerve, trust the process, and find new ways to extract performance while reshaping his driving DNA on the fly. There's no time for emotion. No space for blame. Just raw adaptation, hour by hour, lap by lap. It's not about matching Norris anymore, it's about surviving the internal war long enough to fight back. Because if he does adapt, if he does regain that mechanical trust in the car, the final races of this season could mark the beginning of something far more dangerous. A Piastri who has both the control of a surgeon and the fire of a brawler. And if that version of Oscar emerges, not even Norris will be safe. When Oscar Piastri stepped out of the car after sprint qualifying, the frustration was there, but so was clarity. In a brief media appearance, he didn't make excuses. He didn't dodge the facts. He looked directly at the moment and said it, right now, I'm having to drive in a way that doesn't match my strengths. It was the most honest thing said all weekend. A reminder that behind the helmet is not just a driver, but a thinker, someone who understands the battle isn't only on track, but within. McLaren, to their credit, acknowledged the challenge. Andrea Stella admitted the car has moved in a technical direction that happens to reward Lando's input style. But the team insists there's no favoritism, no design bias, just evolution. Piastri, for his part, isn't asking for sympathy. He's asking for solutions. And in the tight margins of modern Formula One, that approach is what separates contenders from champions. Heading into Sunday's race, Piastri starts from a strong grid spot but behind his teammate. Again. That might look small on paper, but emotionally, it's enormous. The start will be crucial. Track position at Interlagos means control. And for Oscar, that early lap aggression may be the first spark in reclaiming momentum. But he'll need more than a good launch, he'll need to believe in a car that's asking him to become someone else behind the wheel. The paddock has taken notice. Rival teams are watching how Piastri handles this stretch. Not just because of the points, but because mental resilience at this level is gold. And despite the media narratives, Oscar isn't cracking. He's recalculating. He's proving that greatness isn't built only on pace, but on how you fight when the car no longer makes sense beneath you. The next 4 races, Qatar, Vegas, Abu Dhabi, and Yas Marina, will test every part of him. Different conditions, different pressures, and one clear objective: adapt fast enough to turn the tide. And if he does, it won't just be a comeback. It will be a rebirth. Because the Piastri who conquers this phase will be more complete, more dangerous, and more durable than ever before.